changes are happening. I think April 2025 would be, I would argue veterans should use it as a planning factor specifically, not a end all be all. And food for thought. And I'm going to say something that's not going to happen, but it's going to get the point across. Could the changes happen tomorrow? That answer is yes. Is it going? No, it's not going to happen. So don't, misconstrue what I'm saying. But that's the mindset veterans need to have. And so if it happened tomorrow, do you have your intent to file in place to where the old rating schedule still takes effect, or are you dependent on the new schedule? That's what at the end of the day, that's what we want to avoid, right? We want to put veterans in the best possible spot. And so I think we should start off with mental health, Jason. On top of that, this is one we actually disagree with. And so we're going to get two different perspectives. And so, we'll give a brief overview of mental health, and then we'll dive into some questions here.
Yeah.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, and then I have one more thing too before you start.
Okay, so Jason, we have a partnership channel here, and so I can't tell who's who, but I can tell you this: what's good for Jason is good for CivDiv. What's good for CivDiv is good for Jason, right? And so, first off, Chuck Truitt, thank you for joining as a member. We definitely appreciate that. And AF Vet with 5, the CivDiv memberships. That I guess I know that one's for me. I definitely appreciate that. I don't really know what gifted 5 means, but I'm sure it's awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But with that, Jason, go ahead and give us an overview of mental health.
Yeah, well, and before we do, I want to throw out there that if history repeats itself, right? Again, this is all in preparation. So we can make sure either we're doing the right chess moves ahead of time, putting the right protections in place before things go into effect, or prepping for something positive so we can be ready to jump on that when the time comes, right? So there's all these different things. But if history repeats itself, Clay, we recently had the schedule change for the digestive system. And that was 5 years in the coming. I mean, it took a while, but the VA did loosely notify, right? They put a little press release out that nobody reads, but Clay and I do. So, and then we push it out. So, but the bottom line is that they gave us a 60-day notice. They put us on notice and said, hey, look, that GERD rating in the digestive rating schedule, it's now not going to be rated as a hiatal hernia. It's going to be rated as esophageal stricture, which I believe really narrowed the audience that could benefit from that as a claimed condition. So the bottom line is that if history repeats itself, we should get a 60-day notice where we can be ready. Is there a guarantee that's going to happen? No. And to Clay's point, this could happen whatever, in December, February, April, like they're saying it is. They have it listed as April as the final deadline or the final actions for it, but it could happen after that as well. So the main point is that we are prepared. So with mental health, I'm just going to give the super 36,000 foot view here, and then I'm going to kick it to you to dive in a little bit, and then I'll come back in. So for those that don't know, currently the rating schedule for mental health is essentially a bunch of symptoms. And if you have a small portion of those symptoms or very little, you could potentially be rated at a 0. Nobody really ever is. There could be somebody out there, but usually that's not the case. Then it's the more of these symptoms that you have and the more complex your situation is, the closer to 100% you become. Now, the big tipping scale currently, and we're in October of 2024, currently the rating schedule calls for a total impairment of both social and economic aspects of your life in order to reach 100%. Well, total economic impact would essentially mean you can't really hold down a job, okay? So in order to reach 100%, the VA is essentially saying you're not working full-time. Are there people out there that have that? I'm sure there are, but if a rater is looking at your information and they ascertain that you're able to work and all of that, chances are you're probably not going to get 100%. So with that, the change that's happening is they are going to essentially take that big bucket of all these symptoms and split it into 5 different buckets called domains, 5 domains. And they're going to rate each one of those on a scale 0 through 4, 4 being the most impactful to your life.
Mm-hmm.
The big story short, and then I'm going to kick it to you, is if you are the most impaired in one of the 5 at a 4 level, it's completely, totally impacted by that specific in that specific domain, you would be rated at 100%. Well, let's say that you're not that impacted. Maybe you're a 3. If you're a 3 in 2 or more domains, level of impairment, you would then be rated at 100%. So let's kick it to you. You can dive into it a little bit, and then we'll start going back and forth.
Yeah. So the mental health, generally speaking, evaluating mental health is super subjective. Okay. Even at our level, which is nothing, by the way, we didn't go to med school. We're not a psychologist, psychiatrist. You can look at someone and say, tough it out, get over it, right? Because that's how we kind of measure that symptom that that person's going through, where in reality, from their perspective, it's really weighing heavy down on them. And then you kind of go up a level, outside of Jason and I, which are not medical professionals. You have CMP Examiner 1, CMP Examiner 2. It's still subjective because of how they are trying to evaluate mental health. And I say that because that's, to me at least, that's the biggest change that we see on the mental health criteria. Right now, if you look at the DBQ and 38 CFR, it's pretty much like someone vomited symptoms of mental health and was like, 10, 30, 50, 70, 100. And in my opinion, the mental health rating schedule works good enough right now. Okay. I do think the new schedule is going to be better because it takes away some of the subjectivity because you have the different buckets. I like how you describe the buckets, Jason. They are domains. You have these different buckets, and it takes away subjectivity, and it helps an examiner kind of focus. Okay, let's look at this bucket and these symptoms specific to that, and then they do that 5 times. And so that's kind of the if I were to summarize the changes as a whole, it would be to decrease the subjectivity of mental health. The issue with that, and this is where Jason and I are gonna go back and forth because we do disagree on this one. The issue with that is that requires a CMP examiner to do a seriously complete, thorough lifestyle exam. Okay, it's not no longer I'm looking at DBQ and I'm checking panic attacks, depression, episodic episodes, whatever it is on the DBQ. Now I have to actually dig and ask the hard questions and get that lifestyle context to you individually, not compared to anyone else. And I just don't think CMP examiners, the contracted CMP examiners, are equipped for that level of evaluation, which in turn would have a negative effect on the veteran. And food for thought, that's just my thoughts, okay? I hope I'm wrong, but that's my initial thought whenever I see the changes.
So I'm going to jump in then. So here's my thought. And both of us and others out there who do stuff on YouTube, I would hope. I mean, I don't really watch them, but I would think that the majority of people, I can say you and I do because I know us, talk about don't rely on the CNP examiner for anything. So why would you do it with this after the rating change? Take that out of the equation. You're going to treat that the same as you treat every single other claim that you file, and you're going to hear it from everybody. Don't rely on the CMP examiner. Rely on the evidence that you're providing. Have real conversations with your provider. Talk to your provider about the 5 domains. Talk to your provider about the level of impairment that you're facing within those 5 domains. Inside or outside the VA, it doesn't really matter. You need to be having real conversations and try to ascertain where you fall. Am I a 4? Am I a 3? Am I a 2? What does that look like? And if you're providing evidence that has that in there, and oh, by the way, if you had a really good external from the VA provider It's like, oh yeah, I mean, look, you build relationships with these people. Let's, at least it feels like it. So maybe, just maybe, they'll write you a letter that says, hey, look, I've been seeing you, veteran X, for the past 5 years. And on these 5 domains, which I'll give you the 5 domains in a minute, in these 5 domains, I would figure that you are on a 0 through 4 impairment level, 4 being the most critical. You're a 3, a 3, a 1, a 1, a 1, and a 0. Okay, now you're getting all of this evidence, which is super solid, and you're supplying it. Well, now you still got to go to the C&P exam, which is going to screw up, like Clay's saying, right? That's not taken away from Clay's point, because it is an important one, and that's why you need to do so much work up front, but it's going to pay off dividends. I've said it in the past, I'll say it again. Treat it like it's $1 million deal, because it is. Do your homework and put it all together. Here's the thing. For those that saw the video I pushed, a couple videos that I pushed down earlier this week, the Supreme Court is hearing a case on if evidence is in equipoise, the VA is supposed to rule in your favor, right? So there is a big, huge spotlight shining on the VA right now regarding that rule, the benefit of the doubt rule. So even if your evidence came in at this level and the C&P examiners here, if they're considered equal or even really close to equal, the VA is supposed to rule in your favor. Now, do they get it right? No, they don't. They're always going to screw it up. But the board and the U.S. Court of Veterans Appeals, those 2 courts, 2 different ones in the appeal process, they're getting a lot of scrutiny right now by having the justices at the Supreme Court digging into their practices. So it might be good information for you to have as you cross that bridge. Back over to you, Clay.